Basically, as a pre-OT student, I know that I did pretty well in my classes personally, and I think it was because at that time I had this mentality that I was not in these classes to make friends, which is a totally wrong approach. I just was here to pass these tests and these exams and get into OT school. That was my mentality as a pre-occupational therapy student, and everyone else in these classes with me were just my competition. I would study on my own and I still did well, and I was still managing to have like a full-time job and take full-time prerequisite classes. Like I was taking like 4 classes at a time. Some of them were online, which helped me a lot, and I needed that as a pre-occupational therapy student. So I'll leave that with a little bit of advice. Like as you look into how you're going to take your prereqs, look into options that are going to give you the flexibility that you need in order to work, in order to do the things that you need to do in terms of your own financial stability, or to be there for your children if you have kids, all of that stuff. I think that that's very, very important. But throughout that time, I just know I didn't have certain habits that I want to talk about. And if you guys follow me on Instagram, I put a post up on Instagram talking about the habits that are going to lead like to success, and a lot of it just comes with time, and you need to realize that as a pre-OT student you're not going to go and be this amazing student just because you studied for 3 nights in a row. You need to build certain habits. I built those as once I actually got into OT school, because in OT school they teach you a lot about habits and routines, and I just was incorporating those lessons into my everyday life. But yeah, it's just about getting into a schedule that is going to allow you to do the things that you need to do. And I have 7 things on this little piece of paper that I did as an actual OT student, but that I did not do as a pre-OT, that I'm hoping will shine some light on how you can be successful as a future OT student. So the first thing that I did was calendars. Like I had all my tests and everything listed in a big calendar on my desk. I had them listed on my phone. I had it listed in my personal calendar agenda that I kept like in my backpack. So if I was in my desk, I knew when I had a test, I knew when I had to start preparing for that test. And you'll notice that once you are in OT school, you have to take it. There is no other choice but to take it one day at a time, one test at a time, 1 week at a time, because if not, you are going to overwhelm yourself. And what kept me in line was the calendars that I had in place. That's how I tried to succeed as a occupational therapy student, and definitely something that I did not do as a pre-OT. Like I just took the test, I studied for it when I got the chance, and I still managed well. Like I got like a 3.4 prereq GPA, but I did not have that discipline of putting things inside a calendar, and because of that, sometimes I know I would be stressed as a pre-OT because I would have an upcoming test and I didn't know when I was going to study or when should it was just a hot mess. But the calendars definitely helped me a lot. Another thing that I did very differently when I was an actual OT student versus a pre-occupational therapy student was that I got a study buddy. I used to basically kind of study on my own. Again, also notice that once you get into occupational therapy school, like it's very hard to do it on your own, because they're going to be giving you I'm not exaggerating here. You may have a test, like one test could be up to like 12, 14 chapters. You may have, on top of that, a test for 2 classes that same week. It's a lot. So the only way that I know I succeeded was by working with my classmates and working with others in order to, share information and resources. And we would split up readings, and we would just basically be able to succeed together as a team. I had one particular person and friend that I used to study with all the time, and it made all the difference. Another thing that I used to do was, aside from having a study buddy is exercise. Now, I always enjoyed exercising, but I want to actually really emphasize that, because exercise to me was so key in just remaining focused in class, because I'm a very fidgety person and tend to be very ADD, ADHD type of thing. I can get very easily distracted in class, and even though I understand what the professor is like saying, next thing I know, my mind just starts wandering about like what I have to do afterward. And exercise really truly helped me stay focused, because I was not as fidgety, I was more centered, I was more grounded, and it made a huge difference in me being able to just stay rooted and grounded during class and be able to just focus. Another thing that I did as an occupational therapy student, this is number 4, is the audio recordings. I used to record all my lectures. I would have not succeeded personally as a occupational therapy student if I did not record certain lectures and certain things in my classes. Like, I needed it recorded so I could listen to it again. There were times that you could say I went to lecture then 3 times, because I would go to class and listen to it there, and then I would listen to the recording maybe once or twice. So I would actually be going to lecture maybe 2-3 times for one class. And that's what allowed me to succeed. And because sometimes, again, I can be very easily distracted in class and have a difficult time focusing. So those audio recordings, I know, made a huge difference for me. It definitely allowed me to do well on my test. I can tell you right now that was probably my saving grace, was me being able to record lectures. And then another thing that I know helped me stay focused was me surrounding myself with the right people and my family and friends that would keep me going if something was not going the way that I wanted it to. Being surrounded by my family and friends that actually understood why I was doing what I was doing and what my goal was, and were actually there to lift me versus just bring me down and say, like, you know what, maybe you should reconsider this OT thing, maybe you're not doing too well on this test for whatever reason. Like, I did really well in OT school regardless, but it was because I had people encouraging me to continue to do well. And then another thing that I did in order to succeed is I had a 5-ring notebook with the little dividers inside with the pockets where you can put, any handouts that are passed out and whatever. And that too helped me because, again, as far as organization, it's one notebook that I would carry in my backpack all the time. I would always have my notes available to me, and I could study in between classes or in breaks, during lunch, whatever it was. That 5-section ring binder also made a really, really huge difference for me in terms of my study habits and helping me be successful as a student. I really highly suggest that you don't necessarily, this is my opinion, if you have your own system, that's what you need. But for me, my system was having a 5-ring binder that I would always have in my backpack when I went to school that would allow me to study on demand for any class. And I would never forget a notebook at home. I would never forget a notebook in class or any of that stuff. I didn't just have the resources that I needed for that day. I had everything that I always needed. So if I wanted to tackle something for class tomorrow, it was always there without necessarily even carrying all these different notebooks and all of these different books and binders and stuff like that. Because everything was just in one 5-ring notebook. And that to me was a really efficient system. Everybody has their system, and that's really what you need is a system. But find the system that works best for you, and I'm just sharing which one worked for me, is just having one 5-divider notebook. And you can put your handouts in there, and then you just, you open the notebook, depending, like if you're in anatomy, then you open your notebook to the anatomy section. If you're in neuro, you open your notebook to the neuro section. It's just very convenient to just have everything in one spot. I know some people like to take notes though for like in their computers, but I will have you know too that the research suggests that if you write your notes, if you actually physically write your notes versus type them out, you will retain more of the information. That's something else that I did to succeed as an occupational therapy student. I actually wrote out my notes and was able to retain a little bit more. It was very rare that I actually put a lot of my notes on the computer. The last piece of advice or last thing that I did in order to succeed was that I actually showed up like this. I didn't do this from the beginning. I know that there was a semester, 2 semesters, that I showed up to class like about an hour early to each class, give or take, or an hour early for the day, so I could have an hour to study. And I would use that as my study hour for my classes. So that made a huge difference too in me succeeding as an occupational therapy student. So I'm going to go ahead and recap again what the things are that I did in order to succeed. And again, those were to have a calendar and have it in multiple places. Again, I had mine in my desk. I had like a desk calendar. I had a small calendar that I had in my backpack. I had it on my phone, and that helped. Make sure that you have at least that one study buddy. That's going to make a huge difference in you splitting up the work and splitting up resources and being able to bounce ideas and thoughts and information off of each other. Exercise, guys. It makes a huge difference if you are the type of person, especially that you just want to be more focused in class. Have your audio recording so you can refer to them again later as you study. Again, I recorded my lectures, and I think it made a huge difference in me succeeding in occupational therapy school. Surround yourself with your friends and family that are going to uplift you and remind you of why you're doing this. And that too is going to make a huge difference as you go throughout your OT school journey. Get yourself a 5-ring notebook where you can just put everything together, and I suggest that you write out your notes versus type them out, because you will be able to retain more information. The research is just there that if you actually physically write the information that you learn in class as you're taking notes, you will retain the information more. So get yourself a 5-ring section notebook that you can put all your classes in one spot, and that will make it a little bit easier. And last but not least, show up to class an hour or 30 minutes early and review stuff for that class 30 minutes beforehand, and it's going to allow you to retain more information. So I hope those tips have allowed you to see how it is that you can succeed in occupational therapy school and how you can succeed as a pre-occupational therapy student even. So start building those habits now as a pre-occupational therapy student, and you're going to see that you'll be able to carry those as an occupational therapy student, like an actual occupational therapy student, and even beyond when you are an occupational therapist. Like those organizational skills, the exercise, and being able to just have things in one spot is going to make a huge difference, not just in your academic life, but just on your personal life. So I hope that this has added some value to you, and I hope that it has helped you in some way. If you want to share how you study and what resources, how you divide maybe your things up and what your study habits are, go ahead and share them down below. But those are my 7 things that I used to do as a OT student in order to succeed, and I hope that it will help you.